Hi and welcome to another Hodgepodge Australia video. Today I'm making a lumpy space princess cake. I have cut out a template just from an A4 piece of paper. I've baked two, as you can see, sort of sandwich thin, almost like a roasting pan size, A4 size. It worked out perfectly with the page. I've leveled off my bottom one and my top is actually quite nice and level, but I'm leaving it a little bit rounded because it adds to Lumpy Space Princess's tummy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place these two pieces together and I'm going to use my template to cut around. So let's pop the top on. Before I add in any buttercream, I'm going to do the carving first. So we'll place them on top of each other and then we're going to carve out the shape out of our sponge. Nice and easy using a sharp knife. This one's pretty good because it's just rounded shapes. It's really helpful to have a template, obviously, going around the lumps, and we're going to take it off a section at a time just to make it a little bit easier. Round and round with the knife, making sure you're going all the way down to the bottom, and we'll end up with a nice Lumpy Space Princess shape at the end. While I'm cutting my cake, don't you forget to subscribe to Hodgepodge Australia. We upload at least once a week. I get excited and I do a few projects, so sometimes it's more than once a week. Please click the subscribe button and come back to see other videos that we also make. Before we add any buttercream, I'm going to attach the cake to my cake board. So I've just got a bit of melted white chocolate here. I'm going to smear onto my cake board. A nice square cake board, I think suits the Lumpy Space Princess shape. So just giving it a nice long swipe of chocolate, and then we're going to place the Lumpy Space Princess cake on the top, and that's obviously going to secure it to the cake board, which stops it from slipping around. Now that our cake is attached to the board, it's time to start with the buttercream filling. So using our spatula, we're using 1 serve of buttercream and doing a nice thick layer in between the levels. We want it to be nice and tasty. We don't want it just to be all cake. So let's do 1 layer of buttercream in the middle, place our pieces back together, and then we will do a crumb coating on the outside before we cover it in our fondant. Crumb-coated buttercream Lumpy Space Princess ready to go into the fridge for hardening. What I'm going to do is I've coloured some yellow fondant, well I've coloured some white fondant yellow, and I'm just going to cut out the star of the Lumpy Space Princess to give it a bit of time to dry before we adhere it to the cake. Now I'm going to use Americolour Violet gel colouring to colour purple fondant. I did actually buy a tub of the purple satin ice fondant, however it was more of a bluey purple, and I tried lightening it with white, but that just made it more of a royal blue colour, so it just did not suit Lumpy Space Princess. So we're going to colour our own. So using the white, I've got quite a lot of violet colour in there, and we're going to give it quite the massage. It takes a while to get your colour through, so let's speed it up, and you'll see the finished product in a minute. We got quite a light purple, and if I do it again I'd probably even add in some more purple and make it even darker, but I was happy with the colour when I had it all done. So you'll see the purple in a minute. Lots of kneading, trying not to get colour all over my hands. And here is the purple as best you can see. I'll compare it with the yellow star so you can see it is actually purple. It's just a nice light purple. My camera decides to focus. So let's put it aside, bring our cake back out because we're going to add some arms now. I'm using some modelling chocolate that I made. It's the first time I've made modelling chocolate, so it's a little bit extra sticky I think than it was supposed to be, but it works a treat. So I've broken it into 2 balls and I'm going to make Lumpy Space Princess's arms, which I'm going to attach straight to the cake so that we can cover with fondant, so they won't look like separate pieces on top after you've already done the covering. So rolling it out into a snake or a worm, however it is you like to describe these shapes, popping it onto the cake in the shape of Lumpy Space Princess's arms, which you'll see at the end. So giving it a little bit of a shape, I'm going to have the star at the top. I need to make sure I leave room for the faces, so the arms are going to be going at the bottom of the cake. Bit too big, make it work. Let's pop the modelling chocolate on in the shapes that we want. Now we'll just pop that back in the fridge while we roll out our fondant. This is going to take a while, but I love my Sweetwise mat, so I'm going to use it to roll out my fondant, and then we're going to pull the cake back out. Here we go. Placing the fondant over, you've seen many people roll fondant, so you didn't need to see it all. placing it over the top of the cake. That's the great thing about the Sweetwise mat, and then you can simply peel it away again. Stops you from having to pick it up with your hands and get all confused. Peeling it away. We can now get ready to push our sides down. So we're just going to go around the sides. I'm going to push it down around the arms, smooth out any air bubbles I put on the top there, any little imperfections, and then we're just going to start pressing it down. So as you're pressing down, we want to pull the fondant out. Watch your nails. Always a good tip, cut your nails before you're pushing fondant down. But anyway, pushing it down, pulling out at the other end as you're going, as you've seen many people do before. So pressing around those shapes using your finger. Your finger is fantastic for getting in between the grooves of the rounds on the Lumpy Space Princess. And you also want to make sure that those arms are nice and defined at the top. So pressing around until you have a smooth edge and you're happy with it, then time to start cutting. As it is, I like to cut little sections off at a time around and tapping it back in, as you can see, keeping the shape in. It works for me, whatever works for you, but trimming off the sides, we end up with our lovely purple Lumpy Space Princess cake. Now that we're happy with our edges, it's time to apply the star. So just grabbing our water pen that I love, or just a paintbrush with a little bit of water, anything you want, popping a bit of water up where we want the star. Now that it's nice and dry, we're going to stick it down, and there we have Lumpy Space Princess. She's starting to take shape. She's got a star at the top. Getting you in nice and close, I've got some black, or as close to black as I could get when you're colouring white royal icing. I'm going to draw her eyes and her mouth on, so it's just a Ziploc bag, nothing fancy, bit of royal icing in there. I'm going to draw on her eyes and her mouth, and Lumpy Space Princess will be complete. Lumpy Space Princess. She was a big hit for the 12-year-old who requested this for her birthday, and I'm sure it'll be a big hit when my children want them as well. Don't forget to subscribe to us here at Hodgepodge Australia. We can't wait to see you again soon.